Today on the Bandrew Says podcast, we'll be discussing OnlyFans suspending the ban that I discussed last week, a newish broadcast dynamic microphone, my desert island microphone, and other things too, so go ahead and stick around, or don't. Do whatever you want. I'm not your dad. Or maybe I am. Who knows? Let us start by discussing the OnlyFans news, and I want to start by saying OnlyFans has not canceled this ban. They have not reversed this ban. Let me tell you why I am being very specific with my language. Actually, let me just read you the tweet that they put out. Thank you to everyone for making your voices heard. We have secured assurances necessary to support our diverse creator community and have suspended the planned October 1st policy change. OnlyFans stands for inclusion, and we will continue to provide a home for all creators. There is a very specific reason why I emphasized the word suspended. Let me give you one of the many definitions of the word suspend. To cause to stop temporarily. Temporarily. This gives OnlyFans the opening to come back and say, well, now we're going to ban any kind of adult activity from our platform. And when everybody gets outraged saying, oh no, you said you wouldn't be doing that, you canceled the ban, they can say, no, we just stopped it temporarily. We never said that it would never be implemented. We said we stopped it temporarily. That is what the tweet implies to me. We have temporarily stopped the planned October 1st policy change. If you replace suspended with the definition of suspended, we have temporarily stopped the policy change. If this is not a wake-up call to every single person who uploads to OnlyFans, I would slap you if you were in front of me and make you wake up. You need to begin taking or making contingency plans to ensure that your income stream does not dry up. If this is your main source of income, if you rely on this heavily, start uploading to a new platform. Start developing your own platform. It is incredibly important to remember that if we rely on other platforms, if we rely on somebody else's platform, we almost have zero recourse when they come out and say, we've changed the policy, we're kicking you off, you can't earn money here anymore. We understand that you've spent years building an audience and making us a bunch of money, but we changed the policy and you're gone. That is the danger of using and developing entire followings and careers on somebody else's platform. That's the danger of building a career on YouTube. It's the danger of building a massive portion of your income on somebody else's platform. So if you are a creator who is still uploading to OnlyFans, start diversifying your income streams, start diversifying where you upload to, because they have temporarily stopped the planned October 1st policy change. And that is the main thing that I wanted to drive home about OnlyFans, but I also saw something interesting come out over the last week. Last week, people were speculating about why OnlyFans was making this change, and the speculation was that payment processors were pressuring them. That would be MasterCard and Visa. But over the last week, the owner of OnlyFans, I don't know his name, came out and said it wasn't the payment processors, it was the banks. And I can't remember the name of the specific bank or banks that were pressuring him, but they said that it was due to the risk of reputational damage. And I guess I get that. If there is a reputation of adult content abusing people, a financial institution would not want to be associated with that. But I have a conspiracy. About this, so let's go to the conspiracy corner. Welcome to the conspiracy corner. We do not have my typical interrogation light overhead. It is now underneath me on my desk, illuminating my double chins, making it seem like I'm telling a scary story, and I guess this scary story would be of heart disease. That's irrelevant, though. My conspiracy is, what if payment processors and or banks used the guise of reputational damage to get to the negotiation table with companies like OnlyFans? Then when they're at the negotiation table, they say, okay, you've made your case, we'll continue to work with you. But due to the risk of reputational damage, we deserve a higher percentage because higher risk, higher reward. What if they never really cared about any of that? And all of this was just a ruse. It was just a guise to get to the table and get more money from these companies, from these websites, from these adult entertainers, from whatever and whoever. Give us more money and we'll shut up. I don't know if that's true or not. We have no information about what was said or what was agreed to or what assurances were reached to lead to OnlyFans suspending this ban, but that would be an interesting way to do business. We're going to kick you out of every bank and payment processor, but in order to mitigate that risk, we'll just take a higher percentage. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Let's get out of the conspiracy corner. And that's all I have for the OnlyFans story. Best of luck if you upload there. Make contingency plans. Own your own space online. Next, very brief, very quick rundown. Facebook is making an election commission. I am sure that this will be great. I'll tell you what, there is one company in this world that I trust, and that is Facebook. I trust Facebook more than any other company. And the one area of this world that I want Facebook to get involved in, it's elections. I think that is brilliant. Facebook, I applaud you for starting an election commission. I think this will be perfect. Nothing bad will come of this at all. This is not a terrible idea in the slightest. That's the Facebook news. I'm hitting mice all over the place now. It's a computer mouse, not actual mice. In case PETA just listens to this show and they're saying, he's abusing mice. And now let's talk about what I've been testing, and go ahead and say it with me. You have been listening to it. That's right, it's a microphone again. It's almost like I change the microphone every single week, and I never get to use the one microphone that I want to use because there's so much new stuff coming out, and that's not a problem. I'm not whining. Very fun, very cool. The microphone is the 512 Audio Limelight, and 512 Audio is a new subsidiary or spin-off. They're associated with Warm Audio, who is a company based in Austin, Texas that does a lot of replica gear or clone gear of out-of-production, prohibitively expensive and rare gear. U47, U67, 1073s. I have the C12, 251. I think they've done C12, 251. Doesn't matter. 512 Audio, Limelight, broadcast dynamic microphone, $200, sensitivity of negative 54 dB, hypercardioid pattern, 600 ohm impedance, 100 hertz high pass filter. 512 Audio did send this to me so I can do a review of it. They also sent me the condenser mic they released, which I will be reviewing as well. They don't get any say in whatever I do with it. I just get to make a review and do all of my tests and share my opinions. First thing I noticed, handling noise is louder than my voice. If I rub it, I know this is going to be taken out of context, but if I rub it, it's louder than my voice. Also, getting a little bit of resonance just to isolate it from the boom arm. Get a little bit of resonance there and get quite a bit of gusts of air there. Somebody's going to enjoy listening to that. I don't want to meet whoever they are. But there's my initial impressions. I used this last week in a voice chat, and people actually got mad at me. People actually started screaming at me. But that's what I'm using this week. I apologize for the gusts of air. Let's jump to what you had to say. First comment comes from Metal Dude X. They say, "Hey Bandrew, what is your desert island microphone?" That is a very good question, and I wasn't able to select one microphone, so I'll give you a couple of different scenarios. First, if I am going to a desert island, I have one microphone, I cannot get it repaired, I do not have replacements. I think you all know what it's going to be. Probably the SM7B or the SM58, because I know those are incredibly durable. They will last a lot longer than the majority of other microphones, especially more sensitive microphones like condensers, small diaphragm condensers, ribbons. I would not take a ribbon or a condenser if I needed to get a microphone that will last 60 years on a desert island. But a dynamic microphone, much more likely to last longer. So probably the SM7B because I love how it sounds. It's one of my all-time favorites. If I could get replacements and I wasn't worried about the item dying and then not having anything, I would probably go the U67 because I love how that thing sounds. I think it sounds incredible. It has additional clarity over something like the 7B, big surprise, but it doesn't sound overboosted. It doesn't sound artificial in the top end. And that's one of the craziest things about it. For me, or to me, it's such an old microphone, but at the same time, a lot of other microphones don't seem to compete with it, at least in my opinion, or within my preference. The U67 sounds better than the U87 because it has a more tamed top end. It doesn't have a large boost. I know some people might prefer that larger boost in the top end of the U87, but for me, the 67 is just sweeter, softer, easier to listen to, and more natural sounding. And if you eat the microphone, you can just get this killer proximity effect. I freaking love that thing. So U67. Another one that I've really been falling in love with, the Beyerdynamic M160 would be another mic in the running, although I do love it on the electric guitar and acoustic guitar. May not be the best option for voice, so I would probably go with the 7B or the U67, but I wanted to give that an honorable mention. And another one of my all-time favorites, the KMS 105 from Neumann, another Neumann I know. But it sounds insane. It's a really great sounding microphone. It's handheld, it's small, and those would be my picks. Those latter two would be farther down the list. So I guess I should say SM7B if I cannot get replacements, and U67 if I can get replacements and replacement parts and get it repaired. There you go. I would love to know from everybody who is watching and listening to this, what is your desert island microphone in both of those situations? One, where you have to use the one microphone you have forevermore until it breaks and you cannot get replacements or get it repaired, or what microphone would it be if you can get replacements and it can be repaired? Let me know in the comments on YouTube. Secondly, we have a comment from Doug, and he says, I hope the timestamp change indicates that YouTube has finally made a useful distinction between searchable get in and out content and suggested interest content. Not sure how they'll use that info in the algorithm, but those are definitely two different use cases that should have different incentives in place for creators to make good content. Doug, I think you are exactly right. Interest-based content or content where people try to make you watch as long as possible is quite different from how-to content or educational content where the goal is to give people information as succinctly and accurately as possible. That's why I have timestamps. Hey, here's the exact information you want. While a vlog is more interest-based content, and they're not going to put timestamps for every activity they do in a day because they want you to go on a journey with them. Two completely different styles of content, but the algorithm, up till now, really doesn't seem to differentiate between them. So I am with Doug here, hoping that YouTube does differentiate between those two types of content because they ought to be treated differently. And when somebody's looking for how-to videos, they shouldn't be getting videos that are 30-minute long vlogs or 45-minute long podcasts about people talking about who'sy whatsies and shim shams and whim whams and wamalama ding dongs or whatever. You get the point. I agree 100%, Doug. Let's jump to my favorite part of the show, the Ask Bandrew segment. Welcome to the Ask Bandrew segment, the segment where you ask me and I answer because I am Bandrew and you are asking Bandrew. If you have any questions that you want to ask me and have me answer, go to askbandrew.com. That is askbandrew.com. Again, that is askbandrew.com. There are instructions on how to send in audio, video, and voice submissions, audio, video, and text-based submissions. I prefer audio and video because then I don't have to read. I suck at reading. I'm an idiot. It takes me a month to read a book sometimes because I don't have the attention span to do it. I am a stupid person. Do not listen to me. Let's jump to the first email, and it comes from Travis. It is a voice submission, so take it away, Travis.
Hello, Bandrew. This is in response to the BSP-272 episode, where there was the comments of Facebook entering podcasting. I guess I had some anxiety. I remember back around 2012, I used to have a website, and I used to have like a community, like a blog post or a forum. And I started moving my stuff into Facebook and using the Facebook page. And the idea would be that most of my friends or contacts or people that would see me would find my site now as a Facebook page. But then it was sort of shortly after it became apparent that I guess either Facebook changed their rules, which is fair because remember when we use Facebook and we don't pay for it, we are the product. So it's totally up to them to decide when and what and how they do their stuff, of course. But I kind of had the feeling that Facebook was only showing my page to a small handful or a few people at a time, and if those people didn't like my page, Facebook would not go on and show it to other people. Well, maybe there was some mechanism I didn't know about at the time where I would have had to either pay or promote my page by somehow doing tagging or pounding it. But I think if my page wasn't liked before, then it wasn't getting promoted or it wasn't getting the visibility that I was hopeful that I thought I would be getting. It turns out I found out that I was just getting better traffic on my own site and not using the Facebook site at all. So I guess I hope, with podcasts and Facebook offering podcasts, I hope they don't start the same path where people would start using it under the hope or the promise or at least the idea that they would now be more promoted, only to find out either many months or a few years afterward that they weren't in fact being as promoted as widely as they may have hoped they had. Sorry, I just thought I had to submit something. I know you like the audio submissions. This is my setup. Please feel to comment on sound quality and such as well.
Thank you very much, good sir. That is a very good question. Will people upload podcasts to Facebook with the false hope of gaining new audiences? First, I will say sorry it took so long to get back to you, but you're absolutely right that uploading to Facebook really doesn't seem to be beneficial anymore. I noticed this a couple of years ago, and I have screamed about it for a couple of years at this point. Most other platforms, if you create content and upload it to that platform, they will at least distribute that content to your existing audience. It's different from platform to platform, and I know some people will say, YouTube doesn't do that. Well, they might. They might do it. Facebook doesn't really seem to do it ever. If you have 1,000 followers, they're not going to show your posts to those 1,000 followers. They are going to show your post to 10 people, and then if you want to reach the other 990 people, then you will have to give Facebook money to promote that post. So there are two completely different approaches to content. One where you build an audience on a platform, the platform rewards you for making that platform worth visiting, and they show your content to your following, and in some cases, like YouTube, like Twitter, they will show your content to new potential audiences. Then you have Facebook who say, well, if you want to reach the audience that you've built here, give us money. If you want to reach new audience members, new potential audience members, give us money. And to me, that just doesn't seem like a great system, which is why I don't upload anything to Facebook. It seems like a backward system. I want to use a platform that rewards me for making their platform worth visiting by distributing my content to the people who I have built an audience with on their platform, and then potentially distribute my content to new audience members people who might be interested in my content. That's the way it should work, because you're making content to make the platform worth visiting. But people still love Facebook. I don't know why. I'm not going to be using it. And if people are able to upload their podcast to Facebook with no additional work and it doesn't take them much time, go for it, I suppose. But if it were going to take a bunch of additional time, I wouldn't waste my time. I wouldn't waste 5 minutes uploading to Facebook. But I know there are plenty of people who love Facebook for their podcast and have built incredible audiences there and incredible communities there. The one that comes to mind is Jim Harold's Paranormal podcast. I think he has a large following over there. It's different from podcast to podcast, I guess, but from my personal experience, Facebook is not getting any of my time and definitely not getting any of my money. I strongly dislike Facebook, and they will not be getting my podcast unless they go and steal the RSS feed from someone. Then more power to you, Facebook. Put my podcast in there. Go pull podcastindex.org. Next, we have a question from Toasted Bread, and they say, "Salutations, Bandrew. Hope you're doing well. What type of microphone would you recommend for a windy environment? A dynamic or a condenser? And would a foam windscreen reduce the amount of wind that is entering the diaphragm of the microphone? Thanks, and I love your podcasts and your review videos." Toasted Bread, thank you very much for that question. That is a great question, and thank you for the kind words. The answer is it depends. It depends completely on your use case and the budget and the materials that you have. If you're doing ENG or electronic news gathering, man on the street or woman on the street or whatever, and you want to stand there and talk into a camera and hold a microphone, dynamic, omnidirectional microphone. There are plenty of these. Rode Reporter, Lewitt Reporter. I can't remember the Lewitt name. The Electro Voice, I can't remember the name. The R50. And then they have the old tan military-looking one. They're not the best sounding microphones, but they are designed specifically for that use case. And if you throw a foam windscreen on top of it, it will limit the air that hits it, especially since the wind would likely be coming horizontally into the sides of the microphone, and the grill is on the top of many of these microphones, so it's not going to be able to get too much noise, and that windscreen will help as well. But then you have another situation, and that would be if you want more detail, more realism in the recording, and that would be where a condenser microphone comes into play. And I wouldn't necessarily say a typical windscreen would be your best bet. I would recommend getting some kind of blimp and dead cat, but that is incredibly expensive, and I am no expert in that field. In that field, I would recommend talking to or going and watching Sound Speeds and Curtis Judd. A small diaphragm condenser and some kind of blimp with a dead cat on it would be great at being much more realistic and high fidelity sounding compared to an omnidirectional dynamic, but it's going to be significantly more expensive. So it's going to come down to a case-by-case basis. Those would be my two recommendations. On a omnidirectional dynamic, yes, a foam windscreen would help. On a condenser, yeah, I guess it would help as well. If you're doing a handheld condenser, a windscreen would help as well, but I would probably recommend a blimp and dead cat. A dead cat is going to really dissipate that wind a lot better than just a foam windscreen. Hopefully that helped. Next, we have a submission from Potter Discussion. Take it away, Potter Discussion.
Hey there, Bandrew. My name is Oscar, and I'm the host of the Potter Discussion podcast. I have a question for you regarding audio interfaces. I've been recording into my Samson Q2U microphone forever, but it runs straight into my computer, my Macintosh computer. So I am really looking for something in between, a between man, if you get my drift. And what should I do? I'm looking for something that has really clean preamps, something that is sustainable and reliable, something that can last me a long time, and also has those little cherries on top, those sprinkles, maybe, sound effects, voice changers, built-in effects, something that would just really give my show a boost and make my voice sound better. My budget is anything under $300 to $400. That would really help me out if you could find something under there. So, what are your thoughts? I would love to know them. Thanks.
Well, that is a very simple question. Very simple question. Audio interface under $300 to $400. SSL2 or 2 Plus, Mo2 M2 or M4, or the Audient ID4 or ID14. All three of those, or all six of those, are outstanding interfaces, great preamp performance, great A to D converters, all around incredible feature-packed interfaces that will serve you well. It's going to come down to a case-by-case basis, again, depending on what you need, what kind of features you need, what kind of features you think are the most valuable. Do you want a display that is really great? Do you want really clean pre's with a 4K switch? Do you want insane DI like the audience offer? It's going to be different for everybody, but those are three that I would start with, that I would start looking at. Hopefully that helped you, and I think you already have your interface now, because I think I remember having a question from you about what microphone to get, and you were picking between 3 or 4 amazing microphones, so I'm guessing you already got it sorted. Next, we have an email from Zedeki. They say, I was watching your review the last couple of days. I really like what you're doing. Good job. Thank you, by the way. I'm planning to start a YouTube channel mainly for tutorials and live streaming, and I'm confused between getting the Polsen mic pod or the Rode Podmic. I liked both of them, even though the mic pod seemed better somehow. Which one do you think is better, considering the audio quality and background noise? I will appreciate your help and looking forward to hearing from you on this one. Thanks. Okay, I recorded a test comparison thing. Let's jump to that right now. Alrighty, I have grabbed the mic pod, the MC-POD, to do a quick test and comparison between the mic pod and the Podmic. First thing I noticed when I pulled out the mic pod is the hollowness, the feeling of hollow build, if I could put it that way. It feels very poor in comparison to the Podmic, which feels like a chunk of steel. If the build quality matters to you and you want something that feels as though you could use it for the next 150 years while beating people to death with it, then go with the Podmic. If manufacturing location matters to you, Podmic is made in Australia, mic pod is made in China. Let me just go ahead and keep talking into the mic pod. Go around 90 degrees, hear that off-axis rejection and coloration, and then we will go around to the rear of the mic pod, and here is how that sounds. The last thing I will do is put a little bit of wind and air and plosive into the mic pod. Mic pod, pod. There you go. All right, now we are on the Rode Podmic, and I am at the same-ish distance, at the same gain setting. This is speaking into the front of it. Let me go around 90 degrees. Here's the off-axis rejection and coloration. Then at 180 degrees, here's the rear of the Rode Podmic. Very, very cool. I am feeling fine this morning. I'm not grumpy at all. I'm really not grumpy. I sound grumpy, though. But Podmic. It still does allow gusts of air in, but it doesn't sound as bad as the Polsen. Also, as I mentioned, the build quality of the Podmic feels much, much better. You do hear that? I can't find the note, but there's a note there. There's a tiny bit of resonance. But it's not as hollow as the Polsen. Doesn't feel as hollow. Okay, I guess I'll go stop recording, I'll listen back to this, and then I'll share my opinion. And with that test out of the way, let me start by saying my opinion does not matter here that much, because I am not the one buying the microphone for use on my channel. You are the one buying the microphone for use on your channel, so your opinion matters the most. If you think the Polsen mic pod is the better sounding microphone, that's the route you should go. But because you did ask for my opinion, I will share it with you. Before I even listen to the microphones, I have a very big bias on manufacturing location because I don't like behaviors that occur in certain countries. So I would, right off the bat, be leaning towards the Rode Podmic because it's made in Australia versus being made in China. And this is not me disparaging companies that make their gear in China. I know plenty of companies have very high quality factories and treat their employees incredibly well. But I have a bias towards items that are not made in China. But beside that, if you ignore that bias, in terms of background noise, I thought I heard the Rode Podmic do a slightly better job at 180 degrees. If that's something that you're worried about, Rode Podmic won. Then as far as sound, just general tone, I do prefer the Rode Podmic over the Polsen. And the Polsen is more full in the low end, it's more robust, it's heavier sounding. But then you get to the mids, and the mids on the Polsen are closed off and claustrophobic and artificial sounding. The Rode Podmic doesn't have that as much. The Rode is much more natural sounding in the midsection, not as closed off. And the top end on both of them, not the same, but they're both not the smoothest top sections. They don't have the most pleasing top ends on them. But between the two, I would probably lean towards the Podmic. And I think that was all that you asked, the sound and the background noise rejection. Yeah, I thought the Podmic did better at plosive rejection, better in terms of resonance, better build quality, better manufacturing location, in my personal biased opinion there. And yeah, there you go. That's my opinion. But you have to be the one who makes the final decision. And I think we have one last voice submission, but I don't have any notes about what it's about. So let's go to whatever this one is. Hopefully it's nothing terrible.
Hi Bandrew, my name is Chepo from the Caribbean. My question is, what should I look for in a USB microphone? By the way, I am speaking with the Audio-Technica MB2K dynamic microphone. Fun to watch and informative your channel.
Thank you very much for that question. That is an outstanding question. And I think when you're looking at any microphone, this is going to apply. The first thing you need to narrow down, or the first thing you need to focus on to narrow down your selection, is budget. Set the budget that you're willing to spend on the microphone, and that will immediately put a cap on where you're looking. If you're looking at $150 and under, there you go. You know what microphones are not a possibility. Second, you need to look at the feature set. And this is going to be different from person to person. First, look at what kind of connection it is. I know some folks will not buy USB microphones that have micro USB. They will only buy USB mics that have USB-C. Also, look at what type of USB it is. Is it USB 2.0, USB 3.0, Thunderbolt? I don't think there are any Thunderbolt microphones, USB mics, but you get the point. Look at the version of USB that it is to make sure it's compatible with your computer. Then look at the polar pattern. Where does it pick up audio, and what do you need? Do you need just a cardioid microphone? Most people will. Cardioid or hypercardioid or supercardioid. Or do you need multipolar patterns? Do you need something like the Blue Yeti? Most people don't. And they spend that money regardless, even though they don't need most of the features the Yeti offers. Look at what kind of polar patterns it offers and determine which of those polar pattern options is going to be right for you. Then look at what kind of output it offers. Do you need a headphone output? A lot of the more budget options do not have headphone outputs. Look at if it offers zero latency monitoring, if it does have a headphone output. Do you need to be able to hear yourself in the microphone, or in your headphones rather, right out of the microphone? Do you need to have computer playback? What kind of latency does it have? What kind of I/O does it have? Does it have any additional software that allows you to do more stuff like the Rode, NT USB Mini, or what's the other one, the Elgato Wave 3? Does it have software that supplements the physical microphone? It's going to be different from person to person, but I really think that's what it comes down to. It's the feature set and the budget. And I know I have just told you what you probably already know, but I think that's really what it does come down to. Limit your options by budget, then determine what features you actually need in the USB microphone. And then once you've limited the options by all of the features that you need, then listen to the samples and determine which one you like the sound of the best. And that's where it gets really fun, because you get to determine what kind of coloration you want on your recording. I hope that was helpful. I hope that gave you some additional new information that helps you make a more informed decision. Best of luck, and greetings from the States. I hope everything is going well for you down in the Caribbean. Best of luck on your recording and your microphone selection. And that is going to wrap up for today. I appreciate you all coming by this week, listening, watching, hanging out, being generally awesome people. Let me know what you thought of this microphone in the comments on YouTube, and I will talk to you all next week. I hope you have an amazing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next Sunday, I will talk at you. I love you so much. AskBandrew.com, GeeksRising.com, BandrewSays.com. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
This has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer is Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.